Yeah, Donald Trump supporters say that he's being treated differently than everyone else, and I agree, but not for the reasons they say. I think he's being treated better than others because, Joe, if you and I were out there bashing the judge and violating his orders, we would be locked up yesterday. I mean, we would be wearing an orange jumpsuit and steel bracelets. But Donald Trump is able to do these things because judges don't want to appear political and they want to show they're even-handed. So they bend over backwards to give him the deference, the grace to continue doing this. And at most, he'll get hit with a fine. Do not expect that he will be incarcerated pre-trial because of his words, no matter what he says.
Okay. Well, what about post-trial, Dave? I mean, ultimately, when we're considering the jury going to decide whether or not to convict him of these charges, these are felony charges, 34 of them. Maximum penalty of 4 years in prison for a Class E felony. Do you think realistically that will ever happen, that we would see Donald Trump behind bars?
Unlikely. I think he would get either probation, which he's eligible for. There is no mandatory minimum with these charges, or perhaps he gets some version of house arrest. I cannot envision the Secret Service taking up shop in the cell next to Donald Trump in New York, especially because this case, although I do think the prosecution has a good case, on appeal, it could get a little shaky because there's some uncharted territory here, legally speaking, as to whether you can use the second statute, which appears to be a state election conspiracy statute to elevate a state misdemeanor to a state felony, when that other statute involves campaign finance stuff. And can the state regulate campaign finance when that's a federal election? Wouldn't they be preempted by federal law? These are the kind of arguments that Trump's lawyers will be certain to make on appeal. And I think Trump has a better chance on appeal than he has in this current trial, where I think it's probable he's going to be found guilty.
Fascinating. Dave, I was talking to June Grasso a little bit earlier about the security that's afforded the witnesses, high-profile witnesses like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. This is going to take on a whole new look and feel when we see these two individuals specifically, and I'd say even most especially Stormy Daniels taking the stand. It's going to be hear a pin drop. The kind of stories that she's going to be telling will be explosive. It's one thing to be in the courthouse. What kind of security are they afforded while they're in New York for this whole experience?
Well, the security would be pretty much their own that they would have to come up with. I don't see that.
So none.
The prosecutors will take care of them while they're testifying and around the time they're going to the courthouse back and forth. But after it's over, after they testify or before, it's up to them. And that's the scary thing. That's why you have a gag order, because you don't want Trump to rile up his very aggressive masses. He's got some real hardcore supporters who will show up at Barack Obama's Georgetown condo with a van full of guns and ammunition after Trump doxes the former president. So we've seen this before. We saw it on January 6th. So, yeah, you're right to be concerned about their safety, and that's why the judge should enforce these gag orders more strictly, because you don't want him attempting to tamper with witnesses.
Well, on the subject of witnesses, Dave, it's also worth pointing out that Donald Trump has indicated he may testify in his own defense at some point, not just other witnesses that will take the stand. If you were on the prosecution team or on the defense team, how would you feel about Donald Trump testimony as these trial weeks go on?
There is zero chance that Donald Trump will be taking the stand. I know he's saying he's going to, but that's for public consumption. That's for the benefit of his team, of his supporters, so that they see, yes, he's got nothing to hide, and then he'll find a reason why he's not taking the stand. If he takes the stand, he's subject to a withering cross-examination. He'll have to deal with the embarrassing details of the Stormy Daniels relationship, and he'll have all the stuff that's going to come in about, for example, the civil fraud trial that he was just found guilty of up there in New York. I mean, things that will embarrass him, he will not want to respond to. And if he does respond and lies, he could be charged for that. So he'd be walking into a perjury trap. His lawyers will not let him take the stand. Donald Trump knows better. Right now, it's all bluster. Don't believe the hype.
Who's the slam dunk in our remaining moment here, Dave? Who's the slam dunk witness? They've been trying very hard to discredit Michael Cohen. Is it Stormy Daniels herself?
No, I'm going to go off the board here. It's not Stormy Daniels, not Karen McDougal, not Michael Cohen. They're all important witnesses, but they have somewhat of an axe to grind. You know who doesn't have an axe to grind, Joe? Hope Hicks. Hope Hicks was in the room where it happened. She was on Air Force One steaming his clothes while Trump was still wearing them. I mean, she's privy to a lot of private conversations, and she's a Trump loyalist, and she cooperated with the grand jury. She's going to be brought in for corroboration. That's going to be must-see TV, even though there are no cameras in the courtroom. Wow. But at least maybe people can watch us talk about it afterwards, because when Trump sees one of his most loyal aides up there to corroborate Michael Cohen's testimony, I think that's going to be the big thing. So watch for that.